Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of I See Bad Movies. I'm one of your hosts, Dave Keane. I am, as always, joined by the wonderful
Emma Spicer.
I See Bad Movies is just a podcast where we're going to sit and watch bad movies so that you don't have to.
That's it.
And we're going to pick apart certain parts of the movies, and we always have to kind of decide whether we're going to be focusing on the worst of the movie or the best of the movie. So every single time it's going to be just potluck. The movie we're going to watch this week is called The Attic. I know, it's a 2007 movie starring a very, very young looking Elizabeth Moss from The Handmaid's Tale.
Yes, and you told me this last week, and she's done a lot of stuff, hasn't she?
Yeah, apparently so. She's been in a load of things, but I would never have recognised that.
No, she's, I think until The Handmaid's Tale, well, for me, until The Handmaid's Tale, I wasn't really aware of her, and then she popped up in everything.
What was the Invisible Man is another recent movie of hers as well, which is...
Top of the Lake, is it Top of the Lake that she's in?
Oh, I don't know that one.
Is that what it's called? I'm doubting myself now. It's something like that.
It might not be. Well, we can look it up. Well, I mean, hopefully the movie's entertaining enough that we don't look it up while we're watching the movie. Based upon last week's movie.
It can't. The only good thing about this week is it can't be any worse
That's
than
true.
last week, because that was a boring movie. But this one is going to be jam-packed with action and fun, I think. We can hope.
we can live in hope, absolutely. All right, Emma, so are you ready for a little bit of a synopsis about The Attic?
Born ready.
I hope you will. All right, so after moving to an old house with her family, Emma Callan, her name's Emma.
Dun, dun, dun.
God, how will you sleep at night? Emma Callan is agoraphobic and haunted by a doppelganger that lives in the attic. Emma stops going to college and has friction with her father, Graham. When Emma is attacked by the ghost in the attic, she is sent to therapy with Dr. Perry by her mother, Kim. That's a very long sentence. Only Detective John Trevor believes in her statement, and he helps Emma to investigate her doppelganger. When her brother Frankie Callan is slashed in the throat, Trevor gives a gun to Emma for her self-protection. Oh, wow. Okay.
There's a lot going on in that movie.
yeah, there is, isn't it? I really like the fact that the synopsis actually introduces us to quite probably every single character.
Yes.
We've got Trevor, we've got Kim, we've got Dr. Perry, Frankie, Detective John Trevor. And also, I think the person that wrote this synopsis had found the little key that puts the umlaut over the character. Because the amount of time they write the word doppelganger in this the synopsis,
because they can.
Yeah, it's just really over the top. All right. So, as always, we are going to decide if we're going to focus on the best or the worst of this movie. This is when I'm going to break out my comically large coin, and I'm going to flip it. Hopefully, catch it. Yep. Are you ready to find out?
I'm ready.
Oh, we're going to focus on the worst of the movie.
Oh, interesting. So last week we did the best, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we were focusing on the good bits. Now we're going to really try and focus on the worst bits. Hopefully, unlike last week, we've got lots of content from that. But if we don't, then just join us over on our Patreon, where you can listen to the bonus episode where we talk about the opposite side. So hopefully we'll have something for you today. Now we know we're focusing on the worst of the movie. I nearly said the best of the movie there. I get really easily confused. Now we're going to select from the categories that we're going to focus on.
It's your turn this week, David, to pick 5 cards.
We have added a couple of more categories.
Yes, we have.
Supporting cast. Nice. We've got supporting cast as our first one.
We added accents, didn't we, and casting.
Yes, they've been added. Got actor this time. Last week we had actress. Oh, hair and makeup again makes another appearance.
We had that last week, didn't we?
Best line making another appearance. Hopefully it's got.
It's all the same cards.
I've got to give a good rummage. Best actress.
Again.
Honestly, there are more cards in there than that. But yeah, making its second appearance is actress, line, hair and makeup. But we've got 2 new options. We've got actor and supporting cast. Don't get me wrong. If there's anything that's of major interest to bring up, we probably will bring it up. But those are going to be our focus.
I can already tell you that from the picture you just showed me, hair and makeup is going to be the ghost.
Yeah, I agree entirely with you there. Are you ready to watch Your Namesake in the Attic?
I'm ready. Are you scared?
Yes, 100%.
Well, you've got your brown shorts on.
They're more salmon, actually.
David has actually got brown shorts on.
They're more salmon.
Are they salmon?
Yeah, I'd say, or
okay.
rust.
They're bordering on brown.
But we'll put a picture up on social media, and you can let us know what colour you think they are. Let's watch the film.
Yes.
All right. Well, that looks like we've just finished watching The Attic, everyone.
What a film.
Yeah.
I literally don't know where to start.
So much to unpack about that movie. That was really quite something, wasn't it?
It was an experience, definitely.
Is it an experience you'd ever want to sit through again?
No.
No.
I think most of the films we've watched, that would be a hard no. But, we've done it now, so...
Yeah,
there's lots to unpack, isn't there? Lots.
So much. It's definitely a movie that you could tick off your list. If you've never seen it before, if you have seen it before, you probably understand our pain.
Sorry if you have seen it before.
Yeah. I do feel for them, actually, because I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Although better than last week.
Yeah, which I suppose is saying is saying something, isn't it? But yeah,
I mean, there was more going on in this film, but probably too much going on.
Yeah, there really was. So, like we did with the Ghost of Borley Rectory, I just wanted to expand on the synopsis first of all, just to sort of highlight what actually happened in the movie before we go into talking about the categories. So, we open up to another quite well-known actress, Alexandra Daddario. Anyway, her. She's having a bath, and like there's a ghost kind of thing walk past the bathroom, and she gets out, and then she gets stabbed by the ghost.
It's straight into the action, isn't it? There's no intro. It's just literally first scene is action. Yeah,
straight into that. There is no hanging about. Which, when you're watching a movie, you kind of think, oh God, they're really dragging their heels.
Yeah, sometimes it can be too much of an intro, and you think, when is something going to actually happen? But this was straight in, first scene, some action, which was good. Again, a step up from last week, because last week we had no action for the whole film. This week we were straight into some action.
Yeah, but it was almost like it was too much, too fast.
The whole film was too much. The whole film was a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I still don't know what happened. I still don't really understand the ending, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, and that is the mad thing. I mean, literally, Alexandra Daddario's character just dies. We've got no idea who she is or anything about her. And then it's just an absolute smash cut to what's her name? Elizabeth Moss's character,
Emma.
How could I forget the name Emma? Her family are now in this house.
There's no explanation, is there, of the first girl or this family? And what I found really bizarre was when you read the synopsis and in the film, they refer to it as if Emma's moved into this house.
Yeah.
But the whole family, it turns out she's a college student that doesn't go to college. So they make it sound like she's moved into this house, but actually she's a young girl that's living with her family. So I don't know why they refer to it as, oh, you've moved here a month ago, whatever her mum said. And in the synopsis it says Emma moves to a new house, not Emma's family moved to a new house. It was just a bit weird.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder about the synopsis in IMDb, because you just sometimes think, was this just written by someone who's just watched the movie like us, trying desperate to remember what actually happened?
Possibly, because like I say, I still don't really know what happened. There was lots of twists and turns, but I can't work out what actually did happen, what was real and what wasn't real.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. We have this absolute just smash cut, basically, right over to Emma and her family in. We find out that her brother Frankie has movie-based, non-specific special needs.
It's very vague.
It's very vague.
He does sort of a poor impression of Leonardo DiCaprio in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. And there's lots of, his hands have got cramp, isn't there? Lots of finger cramping and lots of weird looks to the camera, and well, not to the camera, but to the other cast members. and just talks in a bit of a silly voice.
Yeah.
It's not, they don't ever explain what he's got wrong with him, or it's not relevant to the story at all, is it, either? Mm-hmm. There's no relevance to the brother having any sort of learning difficulties or anything like that. There's just no reason for it. It's just kind of, let's just write this character in. And that's the guy, did you say that's the guy that wrote the script?
Yeah, apparently, so in the end credits it said it was based upon a story by Tom Malloy, and the script writer, one of them, was Tom Malloy. I can't imagine there's that many Tom Malloys involved in this movie, so when you see the character Frankie being played by Tom Malloy, you kind of have to put 2 and 2 together and get, unfortunately, 4. I'd rather have got 5 in this instance, I think. But I think that's absolutely right. He's doing an approximate impersonation of Leonardo DiCaprio in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. It ends up like Officer Dewey in Scary Movie.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you know?
It's not a good piece of acting.
no. And we quickly realise as well that Emma has her own issues.
Yes, I do.
Emma in the movie. Emma here has some issues with the movie.
Separate issues.
But yeah, so Emma's obviously got her own issues as well. She's agoraphobic. She doesn't go out, so she's not going to college, as we said. And slowly, I think the oppressiveness of her being in the house is affecting her. But she's seeing ghosts, she's seeing this doppelganger of herself up in the attic, which causes her to fall out of the attic and bump her head.
Fall out in the most dramatic way. I really wish we'd got stunts on this week, because the stunt of her falling out of the attic, the way I can describe it is she was kind of folded, she was kind of at a right angle, wasn't she?
Yeah.
So her legs and her body were like at a right angle, and she kind of fell out, and I just thought, if you fell out of the attic like that, you'd break your back, surely, or break your neck.
You'd be dead.
She just gets a bit of a bump on the back of her head.
Yeah. And also, what I'd like to point out is, if we were doing stunts, I'd have been really impressed, because clearly at some point between the shot of her falling out through the hole in the ceiling and landing on the floor, she clearly does like a 360 pirouette thing, because she lands the way that she wouldn't have landed if she landed the way she fell out. It was very odd. But it does, because she's injured, it does introduce us to Dreamy McDreamboat.
The paramedic is I don't know his real name, but if anyone has seen Sex and the City, he is Smith Jarrett, Samantha's long-term boyfriend. So yeah, he's very good looking, apart from the very, very pronounced bum chin. But he is very good looking. I think he's a model as well in real life.
Oh, is he? He's a fine figure of a man.
Model
clearly.
And actor. We get introduced to him. He's the paramedic, and he puts his hand behind her head and says, "Oh, you've got a bit of a bump there," and that's about as much as he does. yeah,
and rubs it a lot as well.
Oh, and says something about her pupils not being dilated, and she's fine.
Oh yeah. So clearly, she doesn't have like any form of head trauma or concussion. So, off she goes. Just after that, the police are called.
Yes.
To investigate this woman in the attic, and there clearly isn't a woman in the attic.
Yeah, nobody went to check. Yeah. Nobody else in the family went to check if there was somebody in the attic. They just called the police, and I don't think the police went into the attic either. We didn't see them go into the attic.
Not at all.
They just stood there and took some notes on a little notepad like they do in movies, and then they went, didn't they? It wasn't really. There was no real point to that scene either.
Well, there was nothing else to it at all. Nothing else to it at all. And then they disappear, and then the next day we get a new detective appear.
Yes.
Detective Trevor.
No, Detective.
Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that when we talk about, because we've got very specific topics to talk about, and that's one of them. How he introduces himself. But Detective Trevor, we were both very confused about, because he was the paramedic.
He was the paramedic. Yeah. So we, for the most of the film, were thinking, has this guy got 2 jobs, or is she imagining this, or are they? At one point I did actually think, is it that low budget that they've used the same actor but they're expecting us not to notice? He's playing 2 parts. So we didn't know. We were really confused about that, weren't we, for a long time.
In the theatre you could get away with people doubling up and playing lots of different parts, but in a movie,
no, you can't. Even if it's a small part, you can't, because everyone's gonna go, we'd literally just seen him the scene before as well. It wasn't even like there was a gap.
It was that.
We saw him go from paramedic to detective, but this detective just turned up out of nowhere as well, didn't he? There was no introduction to him. He was just kind of there at the house.
Yep.
So there was no explanation of, because there was two coppers the day before. Mm-hmm. And then there was this detective turned up the next day, and it was like, what would they put this much resource into someone apparently seeing someone in their attic?
It's very odd. I mean, why would the police be called out anyway? You fell out of the attic, it's clearly an accident. I don't know any world where the police would come out to that.
No.
And send detectives
Yeah.
Not even just beat cops, or whatever.
But even if they did send cops out, if you said, I think there's someone in my attic, surely the cops would go up to the attic and check. That'd be the first thing they do.
Yeah.
But we didn't see them do that, and they didn't say they'd done that.
But that doesn't let the movie happen, Emma. If they
Yeah, that's true.
discount everything straight away, does it?
That's true.
So Detective Trevor, he turns up. He's clearly believing Emma, but at the same time, Emma's also seeing a therapist that is a friend of her mother. That's just sort of happening. Detective Trevor believes in her, and he's investigating things for her. He's finding out facts that she used to have a twin sister, which could explain the doppelganger. But the twin sister died.
She died when she was 12 days old.
Yeah.
And they say that it looked as though, I don't know how you tell this at 12 days old, but it looks as though she had the same issues as her brother. So that's what. And then she said, "What? So my dad just let her die?" As if you can, as a parent, go, "Oh, they've got learning difficulties. Okay, let that one die. I just won't feed that one." Or I won't, it was weird. Yeah. And at 12 days old, there's no way you'd be able to tell, is there, if a child had learning difficulties. Different if they had if they could do brain scans and there was something wrong with the actual brain itself physically, but this was just, he kind of seemed like he just had sort of learning difficulties. So how you would tell that at 12 days old, I have no idea.
I mean, you've got kids, I've got kids. I don't ever recall any of them getting a brain scan.
The first check they have in terms of development is a 2-year check. So when they're 2, you go and you fill out a list of questions, and you go and see someone who doesn't really discuss anything with you.
Yeah.
and just goes, have you got any concerns? And you go, no, and they go, okay, fine, bye.
Yeah.
It's literally like that. They don't really investigate much.
So if it's different in the US and they have that developmental check within the first 12 days, please let us know.
I mean, that's quite ambitious to think you can detect something from a 12-day-old baby, but
it really is.
We don't know.
That's the maddest thing about it, isn't it? But
so that kind of explains, when we're watching the movie at first, that kind of explained, okay, there's a ghost-like figure that it looks exactly like her because it's her twin sister. But there were so many twists and turns after that, wasn't there?
Yeah, there really was. They started throughout the movie building up sort of the paranoia for Emma, and her thinking that her mother and her father were against her. They didn't believe her, that kind of thing. Almost like to the degree where the father seemed to be quite abusive, which we'll get onto.
Yeah, we'll get onto that.
We'll definitely get onto that, don't you worry. But it was very strange.
There's a couple of weird scenes with the dad. And are we going to talk about the fact that she started to sleep with...
Oh yeah,
didn't she? They had like a kiss, and then later on in the scene, they don't show a sex scene, but they've clearly had sex, and he's getting dressed again, and she's taking pictures on her weird little disposable camera.
Yeah, a little disposable
of him
camera.
Getting dressed.
I wish we had props, because I think the disposable camera had definitely been up there.
I mean, it was 2007. There would have been mobile phones.
Yeah.
I don't think many people would still be using the disposable cameras, and also she's agoraphobic. How's she going to get that camera?
And there would have been so many. I mean, even 2007. Even if you didn't have a mobile phone, I guarantee you most households had a digital camera.
Yeah.
Who has one nowadays? Unless you're an absolute enthusiast. But
yeah.
So what's really strange as well is obviously Emma and Detective John Trevor have just had coitus, and then he's gone off to do his detective-y stuff, and she walks past the attic.
No, first of all, she slivers down the bed. For some
yeah. That was really odd.
Slides down the bed, and that's how the scene ends.
Yeah, that was strange. And she walks past the attic, and there's clearly sex noises coming from the attic.
Yes, and we still now, we've watched the whole film, and we still don't know who was having sex in the attic.
Yeah.
And when we get to the end of telling you about the film, it still won't be clear.
Oh, there's still nothing clear about it.
Who it could have been.
We've missed one thing in the order of the movie. At one point, Frankie gets murdered as well.
He does. He gets murdered. Well, what we see is Emma looking out into the garden, and there's this tyre swing, isn't there, that she keeps looking at all the time. And then all of a sudden there's Beth, the twin sister, on the tyre swing at one point.
Her name was Beth, wasn't it? Yeah.
And then we see a scene where she's looking out into the garden at the tyre swing, and then Frankie's out there, isn't he? And
that's right.
Beth just appears with a knife, slits his throat, and it's quite good.
It was quite good
for his throat.
Yeah, it was actually.
Yeah, so that happens, and she's just like, obviously the police then think it's her, don't they? But they can't find the knife.
Yeah, that's
they say about they need to find the knife.
Yeah, and they couldn't find it, so it was.
And she's taken some pictures on her little camera.
That's right.
And they're saying to her, "Can you take us out into the garden and show us what happened?" And she's saying, "No, I'll show you tomorrow."
Yeah, I'll show you
Even
tomorrow.
though she doesn't go out. If you're agoraphobic, do you not even go out into your own garden? Is it literally you don't step outside the house? Or...
No, I mean, I know somebody with agoraphobia, and they'll go into their own garden.
Yeah, that's
They
what I
will go into their
mean.
own
She
garden.
would go into her garden. She wouldn't go necessarily out for the day, but she would go into her garden.
I guess I guess it depends really on your level of agoraphobia, but
Yeah.
Agoraphobia isn't the fear of outdoors. It's more the
It's more like
fear
socialising
of,
and stuff, is it?
Yeah, I think isn't it? Maybe
More
it
like-
covers quite a broad spectrum, but I thought it was also just like the fear of busy, crowded
Yeah.
places, and they live out in the sticks.
Yeah.
So
And like I say, in her own garden, I'm sure even if somebody does suffer with that, they're going to go into their own garden. They
Yeah.
might just not necessarily go out on a day out or...
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
also it didn't seem to have any issue with like loads of people just coming in and tramping through the house. That never
Yeah.
seemed to be an issue, which I don't
Yeah,
can
that's
sometimes
true.
be with people with agoraphobia as well. So I don't know. I just don't think they did their research when they wrote this story.
No, it wasn't very well thought through, was it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
So then after Frankie dies...
Yeah, we have she's clearly comforted by Doctor. Let's just give him another
He
job
might as well.
title.
Well, he
might as well be.
was a paramedic.
Yeah, he was a paramedic. He's now a doctor, and now he was always a detective as well.
Yeah.
So they have their little tryst that goes on. Then she gets attacked by the ghost. I mean, I know this isn't the
Oh,
exact
yes.
the
Yeah,
exact
yeah.
synopsis, but
Yeah.
at some point she then gets attacked by the ghost, and Detective John Trevor comes in and sees the ghost as well. This is the first time anyone other than Emma's seen the ghost.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah.
And he's like pointing a gun at her and just lets her go.
She jumps out the window.
Yeah, just lets her go.
But then Emma's like, "See, you saw her too. She's real, and
Yeah.
I'm not making this all up." And then I can't remember what happens after that.
He gives her the gun so that she
Oh
stays
yes, to
safe.
protect herself.
Within the same evening, I don't know how she's got. So he's given her the gun even, and she goes downstairs because her mum and dad have now come home,
Yes.
and she sees them crushing up tablets to put in her drink.
Yeah.
And
She says, "I'm not thirsty."
Yeah, both pointing a gun at them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not thirsty anymore because I've just had some fun with Detective John Trevor. But yeah, so she's pointing the gun at the parents and starts to kind of accuse them of using witchcraft to bring back.
We missed out a scene, didn't we? Because she goes into the attic at one point and there's all symbols,
yeah,
like
that's
witchcraft
right.
symbols all over the walls, sort of neon kind of lit up in the dark,
Yeah,
aren't they?
it is
and there's this
glow in the
really odd scene where she's like spinning round, like, or the camera spins around her,
Yeah.
sorry, she doesn't spin round. So the camera's kind of spinning around her. It made me feel a bit seasick because it was just kind of like a lot of motion. And then she writes down she copies down all the symbols, doesn't she, in a notebook, and says
Yeah.
to the detective, "Can you look into these symbols?" And he says they're witchcraft symbols. And then her dad has got a tattoo of a witchcraft symbol on his
Oh,
arm,
yeah,
which didn't
yeah.
make any sense either.
It didn't at all. So all that leads up
So
to.
they hint at witchcraft, but then it's like,
Yeah.
again, that was a pointless part of the plot because that
Yeah.
didn't really
It
really
really
marry
was.
up at the end, did it, to anything? It wasn't relevant.
Came to nothing, but the only thing that it did come to was the fact that it built on Emma's paranoia, so that when it got to the end where she sees her mum crushing up these tablets to put in her drink, that she starts to say, "Oh, you're trying to drug me, you're trying
Yeah.
to replace me with, you're trying to use witchcraft to bring back my dead sister,
Which didn't make any
and
sense
replace
that
me."
they would try and kill her. Well, with what we knew so far,
Yeah.
it didn't make any sense because they'd lost the twin sister, they'd lost their son. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't make much sense for parents who have lost two children to then kill the third one.
Yeah, no, I don't.
But then I think what we learnt later on probably meant that wasn't the case, because then she kills her parents, doesn't
Yeah.
she, with the gun?
Shoots them dead.
Shoots her dad quite a few times.
Yeah, in self-defense.
And then her mum just gets shot once, I think, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And then she calls the police on herself and says, "I've just killed my parents." They turn up. Oh, and then there's a really weird scene. So there's
Oh, yes.
another guy turns up, another paramedic, and she says something to him about him being the detective, doesn't she?
Yeah, but it was the same. It was the same actor. It was the same
Oh, it's
guy.
the same actor.
Yeah.
But he says, "No, my name's Brad."
Yeah.
It's like, who are you?
And
She's been three different characters
Trevor,
so far.
tell them what's going on. And,
Yeah.
and he's looking at her like, I haven't got a clue what you're talking
Oh,
about.
and we missed a really other important part.
Oh, have we?
Yes. So this disposable camera that she's taking pictures of everything.
Oh, yeah.
Her dad at one point takes it off of her when she's asleep, And then she's like, where's my camera? And is asking for it back. That's the weird scene where she's eating pasta and rubbing it all over her chest. But I think we'll get to that scene because that's also the scene where something really disturbing happened.
Really disturbing.
So he takes the camera, and then so at the end he said to her before he gets killed, he says he got the photos developed, and then she kills him. And then when the police come in, I was really hoping that we'd have like a hangover, like the end of the Hangover, so all the photos would flash up on the screen and it'd all be her just like having loads of fun and drinking and stuff.
Just killed my brother. What up?
But it wasn't. But we did see the photos in the end, didn't we? And there was nothing on the photos. It was just like a photo of a wall or a photo of the floor.
So the photos that she took of Detective
the ghost
John,
or Detective John, yeah.
he wasn't in the photo.
Detective Trevor, not John.
Detective Trevor, John Trevor, John, whatever. Yeah. So he wasn't in the photos. So clearly, what we thought was she'd imagined
Yes.
Detective John Trevor. She'd imagined him, and just from this paramedic that she'd seen, which
Yes.
was just so confusing in the film.
Yeah, because we never knew his name in the beginning when he was a paramedic, and then he came back and he was Brad apparently. And then there's a weird scene where she's, you see one angle where she's pointing the gun at him and saying, what did she say? Something, or I'll kill you.
Yeah, she says, "Tell them what's going on, Trevor, or I'll kill you."
Or I'll kill you. But then it pans to her and she's got the gun under her chin.
Yes.
And then, yeah, she shoots herself.
Which does then start to scream, oh, wait a second, this isn't a ghost story, this is actually just...
It's been her all along.
Like a psychological thriller showing that it's been her all along, and she's just imagining these other things happening.
And, I mean, did she even maybe possibly imagine the brother? Or, I'm just thinking now, they said all the way, they said in the film, they said in the synopsis, she moves to a new house. Were any of the family real?
Emma, what if we are just... what if the movie's still happening, and actually we're just in Emma's imagination talking about the movie?
Okay, too far.
Too far? Alright, too far. Okay, I'll accept that.
Well, I've just pinched myself and I'm real, so I think we can rule that out. No, it was, I'm just thinking that now, but probably not. I think it was only the detective that was, so I think the people in her head, or maybe it was multiple personalities, or it was just imagined, but the twin and the detective were definitely not real, were they?
That's right, yeah, definitely.
Although, he's not real, but then at the very end, a new family move in, don't they? And there's some crazy estate agent showing them around, and there's a mum and dad and a daughter, and the daughter is like, oh, I don't like this place, it's really creepy.
Oh, she's got real bad vibes about it.
She's like, don't want to live here. And she goes straight up to the attic for some reason. So she's in the attic, and the dad comes up and's like, oh, I think it's a keeper. And she's like looking into a big mirror that's in the attic, and then all of a sudden Detective Trevor's there.
Yeah.
But he's not Detective Trevor, he's Ronald. Somebody,
Ronald,
an estate
agent.
So
what?
We were like, by this point we were like, what the hell is going on? Who is this guy? So we don't think he's real, but if he's in Emma's imagination, he wouldn't appear at the end. So I think he was a ghost, maybe?
Yeah,
some sort of ghost, because if other people can see him.
But he showed up in Emma's imagination looking like the paramedic that helped her with the bump on her head.
So if he was a ghost, why did he look like the paramedic?
Yeah, why would the ghost then show up as a paramedic to a completely new person that's never seen that paramedic?
It made no sense.
It really didn't make any sense at all.
And there was a part, which we'll talk about again later because there's a great line in it, but there was a part where, just before the new family move in, obviously all the police around the house because there's been murders there, and it was they kind of say that somebody years earlier got killed, so the woman in the first scene.
But that still made it so disjointed.
Yeah, we couldn't tie that together. We didn't see the relevance of the woman who lived there 30 years ago, because she saw a ghost, didn't she?
Yeah.
Which I assume was Beth, I don't know. And got stabbed by the ghost.
Who knows who that ghost was?
So that didn't, if it was all in Emma's mind, that didn't make sense either. So, but then... Oh, I don't know. Maybe Beth.
Were they trying to say that by that single line, which is one of the lines we're going to talk about? One of the connected to ones. This the detective is like, listen, you'll never believe this, but 30 years ago, a woman died here mysteriously. Are they trying to say with that? Were they trying to say, well, actually, it is something to do with the house? There's something here that tricks people into ending up killing themselves or dying in mysterious ways.
Don't know.
But none of that was really explored, and just to have that single line tagged on at the end to try and give us that explanation. So I don't know if this was a ghost.
It was almost just sort of overkill with
sort of movie?
Yeah, it was kind of overkill with the twists and turns, wasn't it? I know, like, yeah, you want a plot twist in film, but it was like they almost put in several plot twists.
Yeah.
But with the detective's character, that was way too much. Like, he can't be 3 or 4 different people, and it didn't explain if he was a ghost, an imagined person, or what. It just didn't explain it at all. So we got to the end, and the last scene was that scene, wasn't it, with her in the attic and him saying, "I'll see you soon," or "I'll be seeing you," or "I'll see you soon," or something, didn't he?
I get the feeling we'll be seeing a lot of each other.
Yes.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was kind of it. And then I was like, no, it can't end there, because I still don't understand what the hell happened in any of this.
And it goes to the credits, and that's it. And we're left with lots of questions, and not in a good way.
No.
That was pretty much it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right, that was our synopsis. We spent a bit of time talking about that, but I think it did need to be unpacked a little bit.
In comparison to last week, a hell of a lot happened. If we could split the amount of activity over both films, it'd probably be about right.
Oh, we'd have probably ended up with 2 relatively okay paced movies then. Yeah. Like we said before, we were going to focus on very specific topics now. They were being hair and makeup, discuss the supporting cast, actress, actor, and lines this time, but obviously we'll focus on the worst.
Yes.
As we go through. There wasn't a lot of good either, was there? It was mostly worst, I think. But still, stick around for the bonus episode on the Patreon, because, there's still stuff to unpack in there. I'm going to start with hair and makeup, because in terms of the worst hair and makeup, I think it was a very easy change, wasn't it? Not a lot to discuss, but our character Emma at one point decides that in order to convince the police to know that it's not her that killed her brother Frankie, she decides to change up her image, doesn't she?
She drastically changes it, yeah. She's
unrecognisable.
Yeah, I mean, it was very clever. It was a very clever move.
So what does she do?
She basically dyes one tiny strip of hair at the front blonde. She's dark haired, and she dyes a bit blonde at the front, so that, because she says now they'll know it wasn't me, so if somebody else gets murdered or whatever, they'll know that it was Beth and not her.
But of course there has to be like video of the photographic evidence of the murder happening, to know that it wasn't her.
There wasn't, was there? Because there was nobody there.
And it's like when the police were saying to her at some point as well, you wait until we find the knife. Or when we find the knife, we'll have you. Well,
they never did find the knife, did they?
No, they never did. They were pretty inept policemen, weren't they?
Yeah.
But also, it's like, well, wait a second. Even if you did find the knife, then surely that's what Emma would want, because it would have Beth's fingerprints on it, not hers. Did
ghosts have fingerprints though? If she was a ghost?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? She didn't think she was a ghost at the time. Oh no, I don't know, but
she did, because she knew that she died at 12 days old.
Yeah, no, of course, So she's
walking around thinking that Beth's a ghost,
but
trying to take pictures of her, which I couldn't work out if it's vampires or ghosts as well, that you don't show up in pictures. Do ghosts show up in pictures?
I don't know. My mind is broken by do ghosts have fingerprints? I'm now really thinking,
I don't think they do.
If a ghost can hold a knife,
can it hold an object as well?
Clearly, otherwise. Could you imagine the scene where Beth the ghost is trying to pick up the knife to kill Frankie, and she's like, "Hold on, I'm sure I can do this if I concentrate." It'd taken a lot longer.
But I guess like poltergeist and stuff, they throw things around a room, I guess.
And also, I suppose as well in the film, the ghost did draw witchcraft sort of symbols or Wicca symbols, and
that was
also cleaned up after themselves.
The first one they saw on the floor, so on the attic floor, they see a symbol quite early on.
That's right.
And the detective marks it down in his notepad, and then when he gets back to his office, he looks up on the computer and it's the Gemini symbol, isn't it?
Yeah.
The horoscope symbol. So that's obviously the twins, because it's Emma and Beth.
That's pretty on the nose, isn't it? It's like, what's this symbol? Oh, Gemini. So yeah, there wasn't that. I mean, that was the worst, wasn't it? The hair and makeup, that was pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
I mean,
bad.
Emma spends most of the film with greasy hair and no makeup on, because she's just sitting around her bedroom, so there wasn't really a lot for the makeup department to do. She probably did her own makeup, to be fair.
Absolutely.
There wasn't a lot to it.
So I think we can move on from hair and makeup quite quick, can't we? There. All right. So let's take a little bit of time to talk about the supporting cast.
Yes, let's.
All right, because there was only one main actress, which was Elizabeth Moss.
Yes.
Most people were basically just supporting cast. A few people had a few more.
I would say
lines.
the main characters were Elizabeth Moss and
the brother Frankie. and Detective Trevor.
Detective, I'd say.
Yeah,
Even the
but that's
brother
it.
wasn't really in it because
I
he
don't
died
know.
halfway through as well.
Yeah, I know, but if you die halfway through, does that
Still quite a main
does that
part, I
lump you
guess.
down as reporting when you've got quite a lot of lines?
I guess he was in a lot of the first scenes, wasn't he? With his finger cramps.
Probably actually really happy that he died halfway through, so that he
'cause
could
it's
go
probably
and
getting
get
quite
like
painful.
physiotherapy on his
Yeah.
hands.
He won't be writing another script. He won't be able to type.
No. But I mean, to you, Emma, out of all the supporting cast, is that anyone that kind of stuck out to you as
Yeah.
being pretty awful?
The dad. The dad
He-
was terrible.
He was.
But the
awful.
mum wasn't really. I wouldn't say she really had a lot of lines at all. She wasn't in
No.
it much.
No, it wasn't.
And then you had like the therapist guy who was in it
Yeah.
a little bit, and obviously like various police officers.
Yeah, but they were just
they
like
were tiny
standard
parts, yeah.
movie police officers, weren't they?
They were tiny little parts, yeah. So the dad was definitely the worst supporting cast. He was just a dreadful actor, wasn't he?
I actually kind of noted down the fact that I said, pretty sure he just walked in off the street.
Yeah, probably.
Just like, oh, what are you guys up to? We're making a movie. Oh, can I be in it?
Yeah. Yeah, to be fair, probably. Are we going to talk about the dad now, or are we going to talk about the dad?
Yeah, I think we might as well
disturbing
touch on
scenes.
some of the things that, because the dad did have a line very early in the movie, but it was a really, really, really long line, but it was really badly done. I can't actually remember what it was, so we're not going to worry about the lines for the
No.
dad. But I think clearly some of the things that he did really need to be mentioned.
Yes.
So there was one bit where they kept kind of alluding through the movie that the dad was a bit abusive, I think.
Yeah.
Because he was sitting down to a meal of pasta.
Oh, all they ate was pasta. Every
Pasta.
meal was pasta. And the first meal they had was pasta, green beans, and like a little bread roll.
I would just say be careful, Emma, because maybe that is like a very important meal in the US. So if there's anyone from the US listening, if pasta, green beans, and bread rolls are your
It's a thing, then
your
I
thing.
apologise.
Yeah, good.
If that's
good.
a traditional
I'm glad.
meal in America.
'Cause,
But they did have pasta. Every time you saw them eating a meal... No, they had that takeout, didn't they?
oh, they did have a takeout.
Which is the bit we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we'll get to the takeout. We will get to the takeout.
Yeah, but any other time you saw them eating, it was pasta. It's probably just because it's the cheapest thing to cook up for a film, isn't it? Just
Make plenty of it. And if it goes cold, which it's going to
It's
be
still-
while you're
yeah,
filming, it's still
gonna be
edible.
fine,
It's still not going to be too bad. But so they're sitting down to this pasta meal. Frankie's talking about doing something. I can't quite remember what it was he was saying he was going to do. But the dad was like really irrationally getting angry.
Yeah.
But really badly acted angry. And then he smacks Frankie over the back of the head, but it just really looked like, don't really want to hit you, but we have to make it look like we're slapping you. And it ended up like some sort of weird sort of scuff
And there
around
wasn't
the back
really
of
a
the
real
head.
reason for it, was there? Like you say,
No.
he wasn't doing anything that bad. It
Yeah.
wasn't like he deserved a slap, really.
And Frankie's not a young child; he's a man.
Yeah.
He's well
he
into
was saying
his
about
20s.
working, wasn't he?
was
He was
working.
saying he was working.
It did seem really odd, still just like scuffing him across the head.
Yeah.
It was pretty
That's not the
bad.
worst thing the dad did, though.
No. I think we're slowly building up and ramping up to the worst thing that he did. But this one's still involving food.
Yes. The next thing he did was... So they also alluded to the fact that Emma wasn't eating, was she? So
That's
she
right.
was sitting in her bedroom a lot. She wasn't eating. He was saying, you're wasting away. There's a point where the mum and dad are having a takeaway. Chinese, maybe, possibly?
Yeah,
Don't know.
it looked like the
the little
Chinese
boxes
carton
that-
that
yeah.
you get in American Chinese restaurants.
So it looked like they were having a Chinese, and she comes downstairs and she goes into the kitchen, and her dad says, you need to eat something, you're wasting away. And then she says, what does she say in response? She says no, but I can't remember what she says.
Yeah, he's like, you need to eat something, you're wasting away. Then he says another line. He says, I want to see you eat something. And her
yes.
reply was really weird, because then she's
Yeah.
like, Mum says Shirley wants to see you eat something.
Yeah, it was weird.
That
and
was
then,
weird.
then he picked something up, and we did we rewind that bit? I think we did.
We
rewind
did,
that bit.
yeah, we had to.
So he picked something up out of the takeaway box, and it looked like a gherkin or something to
it
me.
did.
It was green. It just looked like a gherkin. You couldn't really see it. And then he just smashes it into her face. He just like smashed it into her mouth, but then it's all like a really gooey consistency. It's like
Yeah.
mushy. So she just ends up with it all over her face and a bit sort of on her chest, and it's just really messy. And he was really quite aggressive, the dad, wasn't he? There was no need for it. Like, if you're concerned about your daughter not eating, that's not the way you go about getting her to eat.
No, and
smashing
especially
something into her face.
And especially, you know, like a college age.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Any age you don't do that. But it seems really odd that at that age you'd be so kind of like, I want to make sure you eat something and then try and, you know, jam a smushy gherkin into her face.
We kind of compared it to, and this was quite disgusting, but we compared it to when a cucumber goes bad and it kind of goes liquidy and mushy, and it was that consistency. And it just looked grim. And he was just so aggressive with the way he was like, you need to eat, and then just smashed it into her mouth. And bizarre.
It really was bizarre.
But he was an odd character, wasn't he, the dad?
Oh, 100%. Of course, the next weird thing that happens also involves food.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking, does it? No, yes, there's another weird scene of her where she does start eating, doesn't she? So there's no explanation, but one day she's just sat at the table with a feast.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, it's a big bowl of pasta again, but there's also lots of other dishes of various different foods. I think they're green beans again. Bread
Green
rolls.
beans. Some of the dishes had lids on, so I can only assume perhaps they were a mixture of pasta and green beans.
Yes. And that old traditional meal. Yeah, so there was a lot of food for one person.
Yeah.
And the only way I can describe it is when you have a 1-year-old and 18-month-old kid and they're sitting in their high chair and you give them food and it ends up more of it on the floor than in their mouths, in their hair, on their face, it's everywhere. And she was stuffing it into her face with her fingers. She wasn't using any cutlery.
That's right.
And then she had the sauce all rubbed all over her chest and her arms.
Yep.
And then when it panned down to the floor, there was just a load of food on the floor. So she was just like basically sitting there eating like an animal.
Yeah.
There was no explanation of that. It's like clearly she's got hungry because she hasn't eaten for days. But then she did this weird.
It's so strange.
Scene where she was tucking into some pasta and stuffing it into her mouth in a similar way to how the dad had tried to stuff the cucumber into her mouth. And then there's a sickening scene, which I don't even know if we can discuss.
Well, we're gonna have to. So the dad turns up because obviously we're talking about the dad being like the worst supporting actor here. The dad turns up, and this is the only time that I would expect the dad to actually be a bit cross because she's making a mess. There's pasta and green stuff all over the floor. That's when you can get annoyed.
Yeah, that's
right?
when you.
But he doesn't.
What are you doing?
He doesn't get annoyed. He starts like taking part. He takes a bit of pasta, he pops it in. He's eating away.
Does she ask him to eat though? And then he's like, I don't really want to. And then he does pop a little bit. Of pasta
that's
in.
exactly it. Yeah. Oh, I don't want to. And then she gets upset, so he like pops a bit in, and he's trying to be all friendly. It's like, you haven't been friendly before.
No.
But then things get a little bit.
They end up
friendly.
in the kitchen again, don't they? Do they go into the kitchen again for some reason?
They kind of like back up.
Is that when she's looking for the camera or not? Or is that a different scene?
I think it's a different scene. I don't think he's got the camera at this point, if I remember right. I can't
You can explain this scene because it's disturbing.
So, thanks. I'm doing this under duress though. So yeah, he grabs her by the shoulders, and I actually thought to myself, oh, you like pasta sauce over your hands
and
now.
all over your suit because he's got
And he pulls her in close.
Yeah, he pulls her in for like a hug.
And they hug. And as they part, I instantly recoiled, and I think you looked at me because I was like, because I could see what was going to happen.
Yeah, I think we both could see what was going to happen, and we were like, no.
And it was disturbing because
it was her face that made us realise what was going to happen.
Yeah, it was.
Kind of pulled a bit of her eyes went a bit like she was looking him up and down.
If I had a girlfriend and I was holding her close like that and she gave me that look, then you would think, oh, there's going for a wee bit of a kiss going on here.
Yeah.
But if it was my daughter and she gave me that look, I would not do what the dad did there and go on for a full-on... Well, I mean, it wasn't a full-on smooch. It wasn't like...
She kissed him.
That, but she kissed him and
he did kiss her back.
Kissed her back. I mean, it wasn't... It didn't need to be like a full-on Frenchie.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't like a proper snog, was it?
No,
but it was
wasn't.
Definitely kissing on the mouth, which is weird.
And it's put me off kissing for the rest of my life. That's it. No more. Not
but again, no explanation for the incest. There was no point to that.
None at all.
There was no relevance to the weak storyline that there was.
Yep.
There was nothing. There was no point. Why did they kiss?
But that's the thing that led you to think. Was at one point I think you said, is the dad having sex with Beth in the attic?
The ghost, yeah, because
the ghost in the attic.
It never explained the sex noises come from the attic. Emma was downstairs listening to it, so it couldn't have been her. And Beth was in her imagination, we think, and so was the detective. So who was having sex? And Frankie was dead by that point, was he?
Yep,
Yeah, he was dead
dead
by that point. Unless their parents were up there having sex. That's the only other explanation. But why would they go up to the attic? Why would they not be in their bedroom? Bizarre.
Yeah, that is odd. That whole thing just really made you just
it was just
question.
disturbing, wasn't it?
I'm not a prude, but that's not the sort of thing
incest,
you want to watch.
yeah, is not.
It's not the sort of thing you want to see.
Under any circumstances.
It's never okay in a Hollywood movie, in a B movie. Just no.
And especially if it's not even relevant to the story, you've just thrown that in there for no reason.
I mean, I'm just saying it's bad idea all the time. You're just saying like, well, if it's relevant to the story. No, I know, I know what you mean. If it was a movie that it had to involve that for whatever reason,
if
then
it explains
you would
something,
expect to see it. But it was just thrown in. And I think I remember in the credits that the guy that wrote it, Tom Malloy, had the same surname as the guy that played the dad. So has he written his dad apart to go like, oh, hey, get your hands on this young actress here?
Oh
Is that what's happened?
I don't know.
Because, I wouldn't put it past. Some people that write some of these movies think, we've seen it a lot in a lot of bad movies that we've watched where they've written the movie.
They've clearly just got themselves a love scene with a
much younger woman, I mean, don't get me, this wasn't a love scene, but
no, this was just a
was
kiss.
still,
luckily, can you imagine if it had gone any further? I think we just would have had to turn off.
Yeah. I mean, how disturbing would it be if you found out that for that one scene they'd rehearsed it for 3 weeks?
I mean, let's get it straight. They're not actually related in real life.
Yeah,
but it's just that in the film that they're father and daughter.
It's still enough to make you feel, why?
Just no reason for it at
all. There was literally no reason for it. Yeah, I had to hate. It was at that point that doesn't matter what, we knew we had to hate on the dad character because he was pretty bad as well. The whole dad character, the actual actor, just awful. With that really disturbing thing, can we just move on to the next topic?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm not quite sure what topic to do next. Let's do this one. I think actress we might leave till last to discuss, but let's talk about worst actor.
We've just done worst actor, haven't we? The dad.
No, we did that supporting cast.
Oh, he's
supporting cast.
Oh, okay, sorry. So other than him, it's got to be Frankie, hasn't it?
I think so.
So we've already said he was doing a bad impersonation of Leonardo DiCaprio in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Mm-hmm. That's the only way I can describe it, really. It was the way he portrayed somebody with, well, I guess it was learning difficulties. It was very vague.
Yeah.
They said, they didn't explain it, did they? They didn't ever explain what he actually had wrong with him. And when they said about the twin sister, they said her brain didn't form properly. It was very vague, wasn't it? It was like, her brain didn't form properly, so she died. But she kind of said dad let her die. Then the detective said they didn't really explain how she died, did they?
No. Just she was 12 days old. Her brain hadn't formed properly,
and she died. And she was, but they were saying that she was going to go along the same lines as the brother.
Yeah. So how did the brother survive?
So
and
he
get
survived.
to that stage, if that was the
Yeah, but his portrayal of it was just speaking a bit of a silly voice and do a lot of weird things with your hands. So it looks like you've got like cramp in your fingers.
Do the
and he walked
overbite as well.
He did walk down to the stuff. He did that. And he ate really awkwardly with his knife and fork. And then there was a scene where he walked out into the garden and he was walking like he'd shit himself.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
Yeah, that really sort of like
and it was like, I don't think he had any physical disabilities.
No.
So I don't know why he'd be walking like that, but it was just poor, wasn't it? It was just poor
It really
acting.
was. It's definitely not the sort of thing you could do nowadays in a movie.
No.
You would never get an actor or actress, especially doing it so badly. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know you'd probably end up with like a lot of people being able-bodied or people being cast as disabled people. It still happens, of course, but there would be a backlash to that sort of thing.
And I think if you're going to have a character like that, you need to sort of be specific about what they've got wrong with them, and then research into actually what are the symptoms of that, so you can portray it correctly. Because this was just you're kind of, there's something kind of wrong with him, but we can't really say what.
And we're just going to keep it very generic and
offensive.
Yeah. I think you'd find it hard to watch that. I mean, especially because you can't watch it and go, oh, they did that really well. They portrayed that very sensitively.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Because we don't know what they were portraying, other than just a movie-based, non-specific learning disability.
Yeah, exactly that. It wasn't.
Shame on them.
Yeah.
So,
but I think he was the worst. Do you agree?
And what gets me even more is the fact that he was played by the guy that wrote the movie. Did he write himself that part because he thought, do you know, was that
no relevance?
Is that his party trick? Oh, guys, watch me! I can act like someone with learning disabilities.
I don't know.
You know,
was it
where,
just like a
where does that
challenge or
mindset
what?
come from?
There was no relevance to him having learning disabilities, was there?
No.
Oh, unless it was just the link of the twin sister had that same. But then, like you say, the brother survived. So if it was something that meant you wouldn't survive, then he wouldn't have survived. I don't know. It didn't make any sense.
One thing that I thought, and it would make me quite angry as well if this was the case. But what would really annoy me is if, because the brother dies, are they trying to say that it would give the audience more of an emotional sort of gut punch that the brother dies because we should like the brother because, oh bless him, he's got special needs, so we need to.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
And so they were trying to go for extra. Kill the disabled person because that will be harder on the audience, which
I don't know.
Which is a really horrible thing to do. What an ableist kind of attitude. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it might have just been that they thought we'd warm to him. I don't know. But he was a bit of a pointless character. There wasn't really a relevance to her having a brother. I guess it was just another person to be killed.
Yeah, and when he died, it didn't affect anything.
No.
The mum who I think quite clearly when they were taking his body away,
yes,
her cries and screams were clearly dubbed over as well because that wasn't happening on the screen. No. But other than that, no one else was really affected by his death after the fact.
Considering they kind of made it look like she was quite close to her brother in the beginning of the film, she wasn't that distraught that he died, was she?
No. Yeah. But then she did have the loving arms of Detective John Trevor to fall into instead.
Yeah.
Of course. Sorry, he's got another job title, Imaginary, as well as Detective and Paramedic, and apparently Doctor.
Are we going to talk about how he introduced himself?
We will do in the lines, because as you can imagine, introducing yourself in a movie involves talking.
Yes,
so it does. We've got to stick to our categories, Emma. You know that.
I know.
Come on,
you're a stickler for the rules.
I am. I am the adjudicator.
Otherwise, it'd just go off the rails, this podcast.
And my word is law. Frankie's the worst actor, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
He really was, and not just because the character was the way he portrayed his character was pretty offensive.
He deserves double punishment because he wrote that character as well.
Yeah, double punishment. If you write yourself
and then act it really badly,
you're gonna write yourself a decent character.
Yeah.
So speaking of lines,
yes,
because I know you're desperate to talk about the way that Detective Trevor introduced himself.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of the worst lines in this movie. But that's not what we're going to get to just yet. We're going to build up to Detective John Trevor's entrance, okay? Because it truly is the worst one.
We had the mum had a good line in the beginning, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
So she kind of creeps up on Emma, and then Emma sort of jumps, doesn't she? And says something along the lines of, I didn't know you were there, or whatever. And then she says, what, do you want me to wear a cowbell? We thought that was quite funny.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever... we've all done it. We've all either crept up on someone or walked in on someone and made them jump.
Oh God, I did it to the kids when they were little, both of them on different occasions where I'm talking like 3 or 4 and they were like really engrossed in what they were doing, what they were playing in their rooms, and I kind of like jumped in and said boo or something and then just shocked the hell out of them and their little faces.
That's so cruel.
I know, and I felt awful afterwards because I was like, oh, like I've really startled you, like you've really got scared.
Although I don't have that much sympathy because your son roasts me mercilessly.
He does,
so he deserves the jump scare. There you go. Simple as that.
It's karma.
It's karma. Although it happened, a good long time ago. Yeah. But these things come around in weird ways. Elizabeth Moss has some weird replies to her parents. We already talked about the reply about, well, Mum wants to see you eat something.
Yeah.
Yeah. She also says in such a weird way, that is an idea to that as well. It was very strange. But yeah, do you want me to wear a cowbell? We've already said this next one. This is Paramedic John Trevor when he's
Brad.
When he was Brad Howard. I was really hoping that it was Brad Bradson or something like that.
Yeah, that would have been good.
So we've already said this one where that's a nice bump you've got there.
Yeah.
and he is seriously rubbing the back of her head.
He is, and if you've got a bump on your head that hurts, don't keep rubbing it.
No, just don't touch it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was imagining one of those like Tom and Jerry bumps.
Yeah, like a cartoon bump.
The one that pushes right through the.
We didn't see
hair.
a bump though, did we? She had like quite a lot of hair, so we just saw her laying on the floor. So we've no evidence of this bump.
No, none at all. All right, let's get to the detective and his entrance.
So he introduces himself as, I'm Trevor, John Trevor. People call me Trevor. You were like, what? And at first I got it a bit confused in my head and was like, but what? So just call him by his first name? That's what everyone does, don't they? But then David pointed out that no, that's his surname. So why? And also, John's a better name than Trevor. Sorry to any Trevors out there. I've got an Uncle Trevor as well, so sorry. But John's a better name than Trevor, isn't it?
I mean...
So if that's your actual name, then just use your actual name.
It does seem weird, doesn't it? Who calls you Trevor? And why?
Why do you tell people to call you Trevor?
Yeah.
You're clearly telling people to call you that. So,
yeah.
And we also are both a little bit suspicious of people that have two first names as a first name and a surname, aren't we?
If you have two first names, a first name and a first name as a surname, I'm sorry, but I just can't trust you. No. It's as simple as that.
It's not right.
It's just not right.
And then if you've got a middle name as well, you've just got three first names.
Three first names. It's madness.
It's just bizarre. It's
madness.
Where do you get off from doing this, people?
What if his name is John Ronald Brad Trevor?
Ah.
Brad Howard Trevor. He'd have 5 full first names.
Yeah. Can I just say, we haven't even discussed Dr. Coffee at all.
Oh, Dr. Coffee, yeah.
Yes.
He was a little bit part that came in. He was the Wiccan specialist, wasn't he?
Yes. Literally one scene, wasn't he?
If anyone's seen the movie Sin City, he's in that. He's one of the gangsters in it that gets killed off at some point near the end by Mickey Rooney's character, Harv, or whatever his name is. But yeah, do you want to talk about him now?
I mean, I don't really know what to say about him other than he was a bit odd, wasn't he? Oh, he reminded me of Tweedledee and Tweedledum from Alice in Wonderland. Just a bizarre little character, just thrown in there for one scene. Yeah. And all of that, like witchcraft symbols and stuff, again, not really a lot of relevance to that.
None at all.
And they never explain why the dad had the tattoo of it either.
But do you know what the weirdest thing is? Who is it that introduced Dr. Coffee to Emma?
Was it the detective or was it the therapist?
It was Detective John Trevor, who didn't actually exist.
Oh, okay.
So how, unless
he
this
didn't
Dr.
exist
Coffee
either.
didn't exist either...
Yeah, and all I could think about was John Coffey from the Green Mile as well, which is complete opposite to this Coffee.
Sorry, I kept saying John Coffey, Dr. John Coffey, but no, it's just Dr. Coffey, wasn't it?
He was Dr. Coffey, yeah. But is it John Coffey in the Green Mile?
It's John, yeah.
Yeah, so John Coffey is this huge, tall black guy, and Dr. Coffey was this little tiny white guy. So it's like complete opposites. But yeah, that's all I could think of when he said his name was Dr. Coffey.
Yeah, that was a little segue to another strange little character.
Yeah.
And another absolute kind of plot hole. How did he get introduced unless he didn't exist as well?
And what was the relevance of him?
Yeah.
What was the relevance of all those symbols in the attic? It made no sense. Although I did enjoy the scene where it was just kind of spinning around her and I felt a bit seasick.
Although it didn't make you feel seasick, it was just kind
probably
of like the best.
Whoa.
Yeah, so unfortunately we're not doing scene because that might have been best scene.
Yeah.
Why do I keep going to call him Doctor?
I don't know.
Detective John Trevor. The name's Trevor.
Yeah.
John Trevor.
John Trevor. People call me Trevor.
I mean, like, just call the character Trevor. This is Detective Trevor. This is one thing that you will tend to notice if we have lines come up more and more.
Yeah.
You will tend to find that there are just some really unnecessary things that they put in scripts that you're just like, why even mention that? We do have a couple of good lines that we'll have thrown in as well, because I mean,
one of them's corker.
Oh, it's an absolute corker. I mean, it's worth the price of Patreon on its own.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you might want to save up till we've got a few episodes on there, but it's an absolute corker. And I guarantee you, when you hear us talk about it, you'll be like, yeah, you know what? It is a corker.
Yeah.
It is.
Hopefully. Right. I think we've built it up a bit too much now, David.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit too much. So we're going to get on to our last topic now. Worst actress.
Well, this one's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because so Elizabeth, I can't say her name without saying Moss. Elizabeth Moss is. So if you're a fan of hers, it's safe to say that her acting skills have vastly improved over the years. This is probably, we didn't look it up actually, but it's probably one of her first films, I'd say.
I'd imagine so.
Cool. So she's obviously done Handmaid's Tale. Is it Top of the Lake, something like that. She does.
We didn't look it up.
We didn't look it up. We should have done.
We should have done.
We should do our research before we
Whoops.
discuss these things.
Research,
so
what's
she's
research?
done some pretty big dramas, hasn't she?
Yeah.
She's also done a few films.
Other movies, yeah.
So she's, and I think in Handmaid's Tale she's great. She's a good actress now.
I've never watched it, but I've seen clips of it.
Yeah,
and I've
she's
seen
very good
bits
in
of
it.
it. Yeah.
So she's a great actress now. So if you are a fan of hers, definitely watch this film because it just shows you the progress that someone can make from starting out to where she is now. Because she is simultaneously the best and worst in this film, I'd say.
Yeah, I think there are flashes of someone who will end up who did end up being a good actress.
Definitely compared to the other actors as well.
Yeah.
She kind of shines through as someone with potential. But there's a few bits in there, like when she delivers her lines in a particular scene. She delivers her lines absolutely fine, and then she does this weird sniffing of the air.
It was so strange.
It's like when my dog, if I'm cooking dinner and it's something my dog really likes, and he just does this, his nose goes up and he just sniffs around in one place.
I thought you were
going to
say. I thought you were going to say it's when my dog farts and you kind of do that.
No,
What's that smell? No.
I do not sniff when he farts. He stings.
You know that instant, like, what's that weird smell?
It's literally
it's
like
the dog.
Like when his nose goes crazy if I'm cooking something. Like if I cook bacon, he loves that. He sits by the oven and his nose is going crazy.
Until you said that, I don't think I would have thought. What does that sniff remind me of?
Yeah,
but now you said that,
she just kind of sniffs around in one place. Her head kind of goes all wobbly, and she's just sniffing the air. But I can't remember what that line was she said before that. But it made no sense for her to then
I don't think there was any
doing a
reason
weird
to be sniffing.
sniff of the air.
There was no reason to be sniffing at that
No.
point. And a lot of her lines as well were delivered with this kind of like breathiness as
Yes.
well. Like
Yeah, they were.
trying to make the character seem a little bit weaker and softer and
But then other times, like the guy in the last movie we watched, I can't remember
Ghost
his
of
name.
Poorly Rectory.
Yeah, but I can't remember the character's name.
Harry Sharp.
Harry, yes. She was almost a bit smug with some of her other lines.
Yeah.
So it kind of went between, kind of breathy and, what's the word I'm looking for?
Ethereal.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And then other times she was like cocky and smug and a bit.
It was a real shift.
There's a bit towards the end where she turns into a gangster, which we'll talk about in the other.
Oh God, yeah.
The other podcast. She's kind of a bit all over the place, but I think if this is one of her first films, she's obviously finding her feet as an actress, and that does show through because, like you said, some parts she does very well, and then other parts, like, really?
Yeah.
But you know, that's all part of, I guess, improving, isn't it?
You know, I don't think I can't imagine there was much time for rehearsal, much time for character work.
I think with a lot of these films, they probably just do shoot it in an afternoon.
And if anything,
There wasn't many wardrobe changes in this one again, was there?
No.
She had the same weird dress on the whole way through.
That's right. Yeah, she did. The dad wore the same suit most of the time.
And they put her in a dress which is the sort of dress you'd imagine a ghost to. I know that sounds weird, but if you imagine a ghost, a female ghost, a floaty white sort of gown, it was like a very fitted but kind of
like a negligee kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of like a negligee.
Or a shift or something.
Yeah.
I think is
with like a lacy bit to the top, and then but she didn't. I think she had a couple of those type of dresses, but she really didn't wear many different clothes, did she?
No.
It was that kind of look.
started there at the beginning, a couple of different things, but then very quickly went into the haunted. Ghost
the
look.
nightgown kind of.
But like I said, I think there were moments of actually, because there was one scene where she was talking to who was she talking to, and I could be like, that was actually really good what she just did there. It was the bit before she started sniffing the air.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, she was doing this bit. I think it might have been to Trevor.
I think that's what made it worse, though, the sniffing of the air, because she delivered her line really well, and then all of a sudden she's just in this weird thing, and there was no relevance to sniffing the air unless someone was cooking pasta downstairs. She was thinking, pasta again, yummy.
And I think as well with the character that she had, she was a really sort of nervous character. There was a lot of small shifty movements that actually detracted a lot. Someone's doing something and the other person is shifting around and making little movements. It's just going to draw your eye and distract you away from it. There was a lot of that going on, which again is, I guess that's probably just a little bit of like craft, isn't it, in front of the camera, knowing when to be all over the shop and when not to be.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Never been in a movie.
Well, let's just say she's definitely improved.
Yeah, definitely improved. So that was our worst actress.
Yeah.
That's our last topic. So really, it just now sort of comes down to, before we give it our 5 stars, is that any other burning thing about the movie that we haven't.
There's just a
haven't
little
touched on?
tiny thing that I think we just should mention.
Oh, okay,
there is
go on.
another montage.
Yeah, montage.
It's a completely bizarre. Again, don't know what any of it meant. It kind of flashed between several different things, didn't it? But there was no point to it, or there was no explanation of it.
Yeah.
It kind of flashed to the
Was it to show the
detective and the
pass of
parents,
time?
and I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, but it was definitely montage-style filmed.
Yeah, we were just happy that we got another montage because that's what we live for in these films, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think 2 movies in a row having a montage would push us to put in a montage category.
I think if we watch another one, if the next one's got a montage, I'm voting we put it in.
Yeah. Okay. Or maybe we just have a special section about montages.
Or maybe at the end of... Sorry to just be...
It's episode 2.
having a meeting in the middle of a podcast, but I think maybe if we get a lot of montages, we have best montage of the series at the end episode.
Sorry, I just think I think I just gave a very good example of the sex sounds coming from the attic. I love it. That's an amazing idea, definitely. And then we can have like a battle royale montages all at the end across all the different movies that we watch.
Yes.
So
each series, you get the best montage of that series, and then at the end of the year, maybe
all the montage off against each other.
Championships, yeah.
There was a montage. No real point for it. Nothing really happened in it, but it was a montage.
Just to be honest, no matter what happens in a montage, we're just happy to have a montage.
Yeah.
So I don't think they can really get it wrong. We're just
100%.
like, a montage. I don't know why. Who doesn't like a montage though?
No, who doesn't? Absolutely.
And if you think about writing a film, if you ever sat and actually did write Crank 3, if we ever sat and actually wrote it, then there'd definitely be a montage in there somewhere, wouldn't they? That's the rule number 1 of script writing, isn't it? Yeah. Put in a montage somewhere, even if it doesn't 100%. Fit.
Although I should also point out that, as Emma mentioned there, we have discussed in the past about creating Crank 3 as a movie, because clearly the people that wrote Crank 2 aren't going to do it, so we're going to have to do it. But you said it's actually you that is to write it.
But I'm very busy, so if we can split the responsibility of it.
Fine. You write the montage, I'll write the rest of the film.
Okay, that's fine, yeah.
Is that the deal?
Cool.
Alright. That's probably going to actually end up happening.
The only other thing that was in there that we didn't mention was it was at the end, wasn't it, when she was pointing the gun at Brad, but she was actually pointing it at herself.
Yes.
There was like when in any kind of TV drama or movie they do a memory, and it kind of goes all wavy, the screen goes all wavy, like it goes... It was that there was a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
And there's a trend on TikTok at the moment where people do that.
Oh, that wavy... Bendy, yeah, the bendy...
That's what it made me think of.
Yeah.
And I've just wanted him to start dancing. That was in there as well, like a sort of... That effect, that wobbly kind of effect that they do a lot in movies and TV shows. But normally, when they're having a flashback or a memory, don't they? Yeah,
it's always that wavy look, which was brought to light wonderfully in Wayne's World, where we get the doodle sound from. Oh God, now I want to watch Wayne's World.
Wayne's World's a great film. Wayne's World 2, though, there's a bit in Wayne's World 2 that I can't watch without absolutely wetting myself. It's where he goes to the dry cleaners and he's washing his underwear and he puts it in the tumble dryer. And who is it? Who's the model that he's talking to? Cindy Crawford, is it? Or am I getting that wrong?
No. It might be at that point, because it's Kim Basinger is seeing Garth.
Yes.
But
is it her?
I can't remember.
I don't know.
I can't remember the scene.
A model
we're going to have to watch Wayne's World 2 now.
Yeah. There's a model in the dry cleaners, and he's like getting all nervous trying to chat to her.
Yeah.
And he puts his underwear in the tumble dryer and he pulls out his pants, and they're like that big. They're like tiny, and it just I don't know, it's just such a silly scene, but and it might be his face as well. It just makes me die laughing every time. It's so good.
I think we're going to have to move on from that, I think. We have to score this at 5, Emma, on the good-bad movie scale. Yeah.
I'm really torn with this one.
Are you?
I'm torn because I'm comparing it to last week, and last week was so boring and dull and nothing happened, and this time it was too much was happening. Mm-hmm. So I'm almost relieved that stuff was happening. And I did say to you when we first started watching it, this is better than last week because I actually want to see who's in the attic and what happens and who everyone is.
Yeah, you were invested.
I was invested. I wanted to find out.
Not in a good way. Not like the story's great, it's got me hooked. It's
just that I needed to work out what was
what the
going
hell is
on.
going on.
Now I don't feel satisfied at all because I didn't find out what's going on. I still don't know what happened. For that reason, I'm going to have to score it a bit lower.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to go about a 3, I think, because there was loads going on, but none of it made any sense.
Yeah.
So I'm in the middle with this one. What about you?
The weird thing is, I was sitting there thinking, I think this is actually a good bad movie in the sense that you could sit down and watch this and just have an absolute cracking laugh.
Yeah.
If you watch this with your friends, you know, like, could you imagine sitting down with all our pals watching that incestuous kiss?
Yeah.
It'd be chaos watching it, right? So for that, I think it'd be really, really funny. But I know for a fact there are much better bad movies out there than that. So this is quite middle of the road. So yeah, I was thinking a 3 as well, because it's not as bad, but it's not awful because it's just like nothing is going on.
Yeah,
There's
not
a
like
lot
last
of
week where it was
stupid
just like,
things that
this
you
is
could-
dull.
Yeah, there's a lot of stupid things that you could just go and have a good laugh at watching.
Yeah.
But it's not like good movie 5 level.
I guess in terms of a ghost movie, there was quite a lot going on, because if you think about ghost movies, they're dry in terms of action a lot of the time, aren't they? It's a lot of like, oh, is there something there? And oh, what was that flashing past the window? And but there's not actually a lot of action. It's not like when you watch something like Sharknado or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not the same level of excitement and action, is it, as a bad movie like that?
True.
I guess for a ghost movie, it was quite a lot going on.
Yeah. But it wasn't particularly scary goings on.
Oh, it wasn't scary
None of
at
it was
all.
jumpy scary. There were a
No.
few sort of moments where you thought there was going to be a jump scare, but there just wasn't.
Yeah. So yeah, I think 3's fair.
Yeah. It does sit
But I
kind
would
of in the
definitely
middle.
say to people, watch it if you're a fan of Elizabeth Moss, because to see how far she's come, just for that, just to
Yeah.
see, how good she is now compared to this film.
Yeah.
She's worked hard.
There's been some well-paid acting coaches, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe innate ability got her some way, but and not to disparage anything she's done after that, because clearly she's gotten better.
Yeah. She's
Clearly.
done some. She's done some pretty good stuff since then, but. Yeah, I'm almost intrigued to see what else she's done in the early days.
Yeah.
To see if it's as bad.
Yeah, I think it's sad that I want to look it up and see
Yeah.
any because if there's earlier movies
She's
in
done.
that.
Yeah, she's done something earlier. We've definitely got to watch
Yeah.
it, even
Yeah.
if it's not a ghost movie. If it's
Hopefully we don't end up with like a whole season of 6 movies on Elizabeth Moss.
we could well do.
Yeah. Oh, that poor woman. There clearly can't be like.
I think she's fine. I think she's probably quite well off.
We're not.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not being mean.
No.
I think she'll be happy. She'll be okay without knowing what we're saying. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone. That was episode 2. I didn't say episode
2.
6.
Episode
That was
2, yeah. Don't
Episode
get ahead
2
of yourself.
with The Attic. It's got 3 stars off of both of us in terms of a
Yep.
good bad movie. If you want to catch us on social media, look up I See Bad Movies on Instagram. I See as in the letters I See Bad Movie Pod on Twitter. And yeah, all the links will be in the episode description for you to catch up with us. And thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.